Alright, so I'm going to go over the basic setup with you on this quick shift 6R80 box. If you've got the USB cable hooked to it and this is a fresh startup, basically you can go here and read calibration, and then you can just modify what you have in there. So I'll show you the one that I've done for this customer here. I'm just going to open. So his name's Jerome, so I've got it saved here. Now all I just got to do is open it. Alright, so it's going to show a bunch of stuff here. You can worry about this later. The factory one, it's pretty much just factory shift points. But we'll go through and I'll show you how to set this up. So we'll go to settings, and you can just go through each one of these. This is just basic setup. So, depending on what your horsepower range is, I always try to set these up. Most ones I've installed, these guys are making well over 700 wheel horsepower. So let's go ahead and go to the over 750 horse. And it's just got stock, if you've got a standard gear set, or a custom, you can modify it, but most of them are a standard. Here's where, most people run into, an issue. They don't get their TPS set right, so you actually have to log this. What I usually like to do is crank it up and set the idle TPS on how it's idling, not when it's shut off, because when it goes to the shut off position, that throttle blade being dry by wire, it's going to go to a neutral position. This actually gets the true idle TPS feedback. So what I'll do is I'll set that, I'll shut it off, I'll cut it back on, and I'll push it to the floor when it's not running, of course, and set the wide open throttle TPS. Alright, so this vehicle here, it's got a 373, which me and him had discussed that might be actually too much gear, but he's going to try it anyway. So basically he's running a 28-inch tall tire, and this is going to control your RPM readout on the 6R80 itself. So, we put in our custom pulse out for the tachometer input. It's actually a 36 minus 1, so it's actually a 35, but I just round it up to 36 just to make it nice and even. Okay, so your next one is going to be basically which shifter you have. There's a few different styles here, but this is the one that he has. So, you just set it up to whichever shifter. That way it knows which position the gear selector is in. Guys out there that like to have a street tune and a track tune, you can actually do that with this controller. And the multi-tune drop down bar, you can select dual, triple, quad, and then you can select that actually from the quick shift itself. There's a knob on it, and it's really simple to select, on the fly. You can actually tune this thing while it's moving. You're driving down the road, you can see the feedback, and you can actually move the shift points and feel it actually change. Alright, so we're going to get on the torque converter lockup. A lot of people has, biased decisions on, when it should lock up, and most of these I build is mainly, race applications where they're trying to, get all they can out the track. So this is how I've got mine set up. So I've got this one set up in 5th and 6th gear for part throttle, and for wide open throttle, I have a friend, he was running out of gear in the quarter, so we locked his up in 4th, and it seems to work pretty fine. So this is the settings that we are using. I think it was in part 2 I was explaining how the speedometer worked on the gt500, where we had to put in the capacitor. So you can actually adjust the output, and whenever you put in all your ratios and stuff, this is how you actually fine-tune your speedometer. That number down at the bottom, you'll be able to go up or down, and that'll change your correction to get it correct. Okay, so in the display settings, it's basically what it's going to show you, and you can set up a overheat alarm temp. So I've got it set at 230, and that's pretty high. But most of the stock transmissions, if they're running stock thermostats, they're going to run around 200, out cruising on the highway. So 230 is really not that bad. All right, so whenever you're adjusting your transmission shift points, down here in the bottom, you hardly ever have to adjust this. This is kind of drivability. It's set pretty good straight out the box. Basically what you need to adjust is up here. This is going to be at wide open throttle, of course, and depending on what your rev limiter is set at, you may want to set this, I would start out kind of low, maybe 500 RPM below where you want to shift. Do a data log, because some people want to use a different fluid, so it's going to cause it to shift differently, whether it's thinner or thicker. Torque converter, line pressure, all that's going to have a big role in how this thing's going to shift. So I usually like to start out kind of low, make a log, and then change my shift points from there. And it's very easy. All you got to do is click and drag it up and down. And to make it a lot easier to read, you can just click these off, because I've had issues in the past to where I'd be trying to move one, now I'd be moving the wrong one. So always keep a base log, that way you'll have something to go back to if you actually make a change and you go the wrong direction. So if you have any questions, just comment, message. If I can help you, I will appreciate it.